All right, Cap. So the two cards that you have here, it's pretty amazing the way that the two of them work together. And there's a couple of different feelings around this. So now this week from Lay Vampire, you pulled jealousy, envy, punishment, and changing course. And then from Chakra Wisdom, you pulled service. Now, jealousy, the blessing here says that this card teaches us that you need not accept what people say about you. You are beyond their judgment. Their words are false. You never need to live up to them. You are trustworthy and a beautiful soul. And then working with this card talks about how you can rise above this and be true to yourself and to live through example. Be strong, this time will pass. Remind yourself and others that those who speak ill of all in their turn, and none shall escape their turn. Now, my thing here is with service, you're either looking at a situation here where you understand what it's like having people treat you like shit, and you're putting it to work in other people's lives. Like it almost reminds me of somebody who, talks about the effects of bullying and treating people like crap and how negative that can be. Now, on the other hand, this may be, some advice to some of you that if you're dealing with this kind of energy, maybe now it's time for you to stop thinking about what you deserve or what you think you deserve and start being of service to others. Now, the very first quote for this card says, I attract to you whatever you desire if you give up your desire. The inspiration says, are you seeing your life as it really is? Though we may wish things to be different, often we create just what we need. This is an opportunity to look at where you are today, give up what you think you deserve, and start being of service. The personal question says, how does the idea of service inspire me? How can I make the most of my present situation? What can I give? To me, that is almost like asking more higher vibrational questions of yourself. What is it that you can contribute that is going to make a difference or impact another person's life? When we start asking those kinds of questions, we attract to ourselves the things that are on our level. Now, the key ideas are favoritism, unwillingness to compromise values, finding contentment, the joy of service, and precious memories. I really do think, though, that for some of you, you may be putting to work into other people's lives what you know about this energy here with jealousy, with service. All right, Cap, here we go. Here's the energy coming through. Very nice. Beautiful. It's beautiful. So the Empress as your signifier. And I can understand now why some of you may be dealing with some jealousy. The Empress, it's giving birth to new ideas, but there's abundance here and there's this comfort, indulgence, enjoying the things that you have. It's beautiful energy. Now, again, for some of you with the Empress, this may have to do with an important female in your life. It could be the mother figure, but we'll see where this is playing out here, but this is a very beautiful, nurturing energy, especially with service showing up. It looks really good. Woo. Now, in the past, the Three of Swords. I get the feeling, though, that even if this is the past coming through, this is what is causing the changes that are happening now. I mean, you're making a huge leap here from dealing with heartbreaking situations, separation, and moving into this beautiful energy here with the Empress. Now, I don't like bringing up conflict that may not be there, but for some of you, I'm looking at a situation here where, and this may only apply to some of you. I'm like hesitant because I don't even want to say it. There may be a situation here where some of you may be pregnant looking at the Empress and maybe things didn't work out so well. But I'd like to think here that this is just the catalyst for the changes that are happening with the Empress being your signifier here. Oh, Cap. No. That's bad. Bad. The Nine of Swords, and again, you need to be really careful about how much attention you give to what other people are saying, especially if they're saying things that, you're allowing to affect you in this kind of a way. The Nine of Swords is no good. Bad mental thinking. Bad. And I can understand. and this may be something that you're trying to work through right now, especially with that Three of Swords above that. And again, for some of you, it may have to deal with like a bad relationship situation, or, this is just having to deal with issues with an important female in your life, or you're moving past this here and we're looking at new energy with the Empress. It just depends. But, I understand. Like, I get it. Seeing the Three of Swords above that. I've always said that the two are connected. It's cause and effect. When you go through this is what happens. But you have to be careful here. You don't want to let your thoughts run away with you, and certainly don't think negatively about yourself. If you're regretting some actions that you may have taken in the past that led to that situation of the Three of Swords, you have to move on from that. You can't allow that kind of thinking to continue to plague you. Again, I'm looking at that Empress and I'm thinking something better. It's got to be better, right? Future conditions, very nice. Much better. much better. Now, the Two of Wands. The way that I feel about this is that you've been through something that is really difficult. And it's either tied with that Empress or it's not. Or this is what is happening that is going to lead you into something that's going to be better here. But you go from this really difficult situation, really bad thinking, and then your thoughts start to shift here where you're looking at, okay, what path am I going to take now? That's going to lead me back to, feeling good about myself, feeling secure, feeling abundant, feeling happy, and not feeling so bad about what I've been through, And for some of you, even if this isn't about, you regretting an action that you took, the thing is, if this is something that is happening to you, you cannot stay in that kind of thinking. Don't hold on to any kind of regret over a situation that, was not worthy of you. That's not worthy of you. It's not worthy of anybody. Unfortunately, we have to go through these things or we learn nothing from our experiences. It still sucks ass, but you can't stay in that kind of thinking. But what I like here is that you switch. It's like you switch gears here and you move into this thinking of, okay, I create my own world. Where am I going now? What is the right action for me to start taking? Your best path to follow. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Take that shit in. Take that energy in of the Queen of Swords and cut through that fucking crap. Because this is no good. It's not worthy of you. No. No. Don't think like that. The Queen of Swords is your best path to follow is basically telling you here that you need to see things clearly. The pain is definitely going to affect you. You're going to be a little bit more sharp here. You're going to be a little bit more direct. You're not going to be as, I think, compassionate here with the Empress energy. But in order for you to get back to that and get a little bit more confidence in yourself and what you're creating in your life, you're going to have to get rid of that kind of thinking. There's nothing we can do about what happens in the past. You can stay stuck in it and have it forever determine what is going to happen to you in the future. Or, you can go through the motions, deal with it, and leave it in the past where it belongs. Our past is always with us, for sure. But we can either let it define us in how we do things in the future, or we can let it be, a guide to how we're moving forward. What are we learning from what we've been through in the past, And it bothers me. It bothers the shit out of me because the both of them look so painful. But where you move to here looks really good. I think that for some of you, though, the warning here, though, is you need to be careful, too, because you don't want to lose that compassionate side of yourself either. But then at the same time, you got to be thinking clearly. You have to be able to think clearly here if you're going to make the right decisions to move forward. In your environment, the past, and it makes sense, right? Being a little bit stuck with the past, and that's why you're going through the mental thoughts right now. But I'm telling you, I feel like something shifts in you. And what I love about this Six of Cups is she's moving away. She is trying to move away from the thoughts of the past and moving forward with what she's learned from the experiences of the past. Don't stay stuck in that, but I don't think you do. You know, I really do think that a lot of you are going to tap into this energy here, the Queen of Swords, and start kicking some ass. And more like kicking your own ass, like, you know, no, I don't need to be thinking like this anymore, or being stuck with these kinds of thoughts. You know, it's time to move forward here. And, you know, again, I'm looking at it in the way that it lines up. You know, for some of you, it definitely could have to do with an important female in your life, looking at the Empress. But I still get, you know, this stronger pull here of this being, you know, your focus and getting back to this. And that's what you're working toward. You know, it's just right now, for some of you, you're going to have to go through the motions here and get it out of your system. Your hopes and your fears, the Six of Pentacles, equal give and take, an equal give and take. Here's the thing. You know, when I see this here, I'm thinking about, are you truly receiving what you are wanting here? You know, what is it that you're putting into something? Are you receiving what you want out of it? You know, be careful about how much you're willing to give to something that is just going to continue to cause you more pain, more pain, more pain. But as a hope, you know, it is about getting things a little bit more balanced out and receiving better things. Definitely receiving better things through your own actions. It's there. It's just that, you know, the thinking has to be cleared up first. But again, you know, that's a hell of a lot easier said than done when you're looking at that kind of a painful past. You know, but be careful about how long you stay in that too, you know. And I'm glad that I'm not seeing any emotional backing, like any serious emotional backing here with the Nine of Swords. I mean, yeah, you do have the Six of Cups in your environment, but it makes sense. The reason why you're thinking like that is because of the past, and in your past is the Three of Swords. But, you know, you have the potential here to start moving forward in a more positive direction that's going to be better for you, definitely with the Empress being there. It's just, man, you're really going to have to work hard here to clear some of this stuff up. You know, you look like you're headed in the right direction here. But it's hard to make the right decisions, though, if you're continuously clouded with this kind of thinking. You know, you have to be careful here. Okay, so now, and I'm going to clarify this because I want to know what the hell he's doing here. Now, the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups coming out of this. I kind of get the feeling here that, you know, you're wanting to follow your heart and start moving in a more positive direction here. But, you know, I've always said with the Knight of Cups, you have to be careful here because he just kind of goes wherever his emotions are flowing. You know, when you're looking at the Knight of Cups, first of all, you have the Ten of Cups, you have the King of Wands, and then you have the Seven of Wands. Here's the thing. If you're dealing with a person here, there may have been a lot of happiness surrounding them in the past, but moving forward, it looks like, you know, you're speaking up here. You know, you start using your voice. I mean, with the Seven of Wands, I've always said, I'm not taking any more shit. Now, damn it, I'm done doing that. You know, if you're going to offer me something, it better be worth my time. You know, and the question then becomes with the Six of Pentacles, how much are you willing to give into this? Especially if, you know, this person has caused you some pain. You know, I think for some of you, if you're looking at a painful situation within a relationship, and again, this doesn't have to be romantic, this could be family as well, but it being the Knight of Cups can suggest that for some of you, it is going to have to do with possibly a romantic relationship. Now, there's a lot of happiness tied in with this person, but they may have done something really stupid because it's affecting you in such a way here where you're still dealing with it. And I think that, you know, you're looking at what is the best way to move forward here. But you kind of get to a point here with the Six of Pentacles where you're like, all right, you know, I want some equal give and take in this situation. If I'm willing to put in the effort here and thinking about how do I move forward from here, damn it, you know, I better be met halfway, basically. And I feel like looking at the Seven of Wands, it's like you get pushed to a point here where, you're done with silence. There's no more silence here. You're not stuck in your mind. You get to a point here where your thoughts clear up for sure. And you're like, no, damn it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not dealing with this anymore. This is what I expect to see. If you want me to move forward with you, especially if this has to do with a family situation, you're going to have to listen to me, and you're going to have to listen to how I feel about this. It's you coming out swinging, basically, especially with the Queen of Swords being there. But I don't know, that Empress, I kind of feel bad about it, but then at the same time, I feel good about it too. There is a potential here for you to move forward in this situation, because there is happiness tied in with it. Now on the other hand, if this doesn't have to do with a person at all, with the King of Wands being there, basically it's, you being a little bit more wise about where you're moving, and what decisions you're making. If you're charting your own course here, you're pretty much defending your choices, especially with the Knight of Cups being there. If you're going to follow your heart, or if you're making an offering, you're defending yourself here in your choices. And for some of you, you may be defending yourself from a person too, not from them, but like, if they start to question what you're doing, you're like, oh, hell no. You're not going to question me, and you're not going to question my choices. This is what I'm doing. End of story. Whew, wow, Cap. All right. We're going to take a look at the soul trees to see what other messages we can get for you guys. Yeah, for some of you, I kind of feel like the Empress isn't so much a good thing. I think, maybe being a little bit unhappy, kind of being a little bit stuck with some of the thoughts of the past. But, I think you clear things up here. I'm telling you, with that Two of Wands, you're starting to look at your own life differently. And where are you moving? Where are you going to start moving now? I mean, the potential there is great. It's just, whether or not you have a person tied in with this as far as the outcome goes, if you're going to have to defend the decision that you make, it's going to be based on what is going to create your happiness. Tranquility, intuition, and inner power. Hell yeah. Tranquility is definitely something you need. If you're dealing with this kind of energy, absolutely. Intuition. What is your intuition telling you? Right? It's so important to pay attention to that when we're making decisions. Your intuition is going to tell you what feels right for you. And, with the Knight of Cups being there, if you're going to do something here that, your heart is pulling you in that direction, you intuitively are going to know that it's the right thing for you to do. Inner power. Getting control over what is happening here and pulling on that inner power in order to move out of that and start moving into this tranquility where you can hear your intuition talking to you. But your inner power, tapping into your inner power. And that very much reminds me here of the Seven of Wands. And, I'm not doing it anymore. You can go against what I say and what I decide all you want, but I'm going to do what I feel is right for me. All right, Cap, we're going to take a look at the romance angels to see what is going on with relationships for you guys. Oh, very soon. Clearly decide what you want so that it comes to you now. So very soon here, for those of you who are single or finding yourself recently single, you could be looking at a new situation here, but it's only going to be through you making clear decisions. And again, clearly deciding. It's hard to decide what it is that you want when you're coming out of a painful situation. All right. Deception. Someone is wearing a false self-mask in this relationship. Now, I worry about this more so with this reading than I would normally, because both of the people in this card are wearing masks. I've always said here that if you're expecting to see all of a person, you have to be willing to take off the mask. But, I worry about, a situation here where, somebody may not be you know, they may not be truthful about the things that they're doing. And I hate saying that. I hate saying that because I feel like, it's causing drama that may not be there. But I'm going to pull another one for that. Oh, geez, release your ex. The time has come to clear your energy. Like, I'm, man, oh man. Unfortunately, it feels like for some of you, and this is only going to apply to some of you, you may be in a situation here where, some things are not going very well within a relationship. And, it may be time here to just kind of release that so that you're not stuck with this because, you are looking at something new. Now, on the other hand, looking at it in terms of a relationship here, if you're deciding on how to move forward here and you're looking at the Knight of Cups, you may have to defend yourself over the fact that you're willing to continue to work on a relationship where you may have had some struggles, and there may be something that, you're going to have to clear up. Either you or your partner is going to have to clear up some of this energy here if you have, exes that are involved in the situation. I mean, it bothers me, Cap. It bothers the shit out of me because it looks like it's a difficult situation. And again, it's only going to apply to some of you. But, if your intuition is telling you it's time to start working on this, then by all means, if you feel that it's right for you, even if you feel like you're having to defend yourself, like, and kind of have the feeling here, like, why the hell would you go ahead and, most people would be like, you need to leave that person. You just need to leave them, right? But, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. If you feel like this is the right thing for you to do, then absolutely it's something that you're going to have to do, But I still feel like you're going to have to defend your choice here. But, it really is going to be up to you what decisions you make that can lead to, that abundant happiness again. The potential is there, absolutely. And as long as this person is willing to meet you halfway in this situation, there's no reason why there can't be a connection again. All right, Cap, so there's a couple of things about this that bothers me. Now, the Empress, I feel pulled in several different ways when it comes to this being your signifier here, just because of what you're pulling in the past and in the present here with, this painful situation, these bad thoughts. For those of you in, again, with these being general readings, right, it's not going to resonate with everybody, but for those of you who have had a miscarriage, I am so sorry. Like, I kind of get that feeling there too, looking at it, and it makes sense, right? But whatever the situation is here, I think right now for some of you, you're kind of, you're still dealing with the thoughts of the past and this heartbreaking situation. There is a way forward. Absolutely, there's a way forward. But I think that what you've been through is going to turn you into, a little bit of a colder person, which is understandable. You have to be careful here, though, that, you're not, you don't want to lose that nurturing energy with the Empress being there. You don't want to be, so tied in with the pain of the past that it changes you completely into somebody who has no tolerance left. But I do think that it being your best path to follow is saying, though, that you need to cut through this kind of thinking, right? And again, it's easier said than done, especially when you've been through a really difficult situation. Now, there is definitely a way forward here, but when you're looking at the Six of Pentacles and your hopes and fears, definitely there needs to be some balance. There needs to be some equal give and take, but it's also about you hoping to receive better things. Much better things here. I do think that the Empress being the signifier also holds the potential for there to be a little bit more comfort and happiness in your life. Now, the outcome for me is what throws this one off because it gets a little specific here. Now, when you're looking at the Knight of Cups, there's one or two ways of looking at this, especially with the clarifiers. This is either having to deal with a person or this is about you following your heart and what your intuition is telling you. Now, there's a lot of happiness involving this, and you're looking at long-term happiness here. Now, if the King of Wands here is not about a person, this is about you being a little bit more wise about the decisions that you're making and where you're heading in your life, right? But you're going to be left defending your choice here. With the Two of Wands being connected to this, yes, you're going to make a choice where you're going to have to defend it. Now, if you're dealing with a person here and you're making the choice to possibly repair some problems here, you're kicking some ass for sure. You may be having to defend your choice to other people that don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, or you're having to, tell this person, look, I've had enough of this shit. I'm done dealing with the bad thinking, looking back at the heartbreaking situation. It's over with now, right? And it's funny because it goes back to the feeling of your last reading where I felt like some of you were having to defend the choices that you were making. Now, as far as the soul trees go, tranquility, intuition, and inner power, tranquility is something you need. And once you have that, your intuition is going to be clearer to you. Your intuition is going to tell you what is right and what is wrong for you. You have to pay attention to that, especially when you're making these kinds of decisions. Whether you're dealing with a person or you're dealing with what you're deciding to do for you. But your inner power, tapping into your inner power, which can be difficult when you're stuck with this. I hate this damn card. Nobody should ever have to feel this way. It drives me nuts. Now, with jealousy and service, what is it that you think you deserve? Because I think it's off looking at jealousy. Now, again, for some of you, this may be a situation where, you're putting into practice here what you know of situations that are like that with jealousy, and you're helping other people out. Now, on the other hand, I do think that for some of you, it is the call here to ask yourself some higher vibrational questions of yourself. What is it that you can give that is going to impact the lives of other people in a positive way? You kind of have to just kind of give up thinking about what it is you think you deserve. Start doing the right things for yourself and others, and you will start to see the things that you are wanting to manifest in your life. Okay, now on to relationships. For those of you who are in a relationship, deception and release your ex. It bothers me. It bothers the shit out of me, especially looking at this reading. If there was some deception going on within a relationship, somebody's going to have to release their ex. Especially if you're making the decision here to, fix things. Now, on the other hand, there is kind of a feeling here, though, too, when you're looking at it in terms of a relationship where you're either working things out with somebody or trying to work things out with somebody, or you're moving from one relationship into a new one. And that may be where the defense comes into play here. But, I don't like deception. I don't like it in terms of this reading just because of what you have in the past and the present. The best way to move forward here is to get past that and that energy of, holding on to an ex or holding on to, the thought of how a person should be has to be over with. It has to be over with, right? Like, we cannot compare our partners to our exes, and unfortunately sometimes we do that. Now, in terms of those of you who are single very soon, you have to clearly decide what it is that you want, right? Your intuition is going to lead you in the right spot here. But it's hard to be clear on what it is that you want when you're stuck with this. But I think that this is only right now, and it's temporary. It's temporary. So, when you do get that clarity and you have that moment of tranquility, I think it's going to be easier for you to clearly decide what it is that you want. But either way, Cap, I still feel like for some of you, you're going to be having to defend your choices.